Hello again, year three. Our final lesson for today is looking at, within our science topic, what different pets eat. And today you're going to be ending up doing a bit of an investigation. Before I carry on, I'm just going to get somebody to help. Okay, now to get my kitten to help out. He might come and attack in a second, but we'll see. But he can actually answer a question for us in a little bit. Okay, first of all, I want to see what you can remember. So before we broke up for Christmas, you were looking at different types of animals. Now, the first type of animal here was a type of animal that had a diet which was meat-based. This type of animal were predators, which meant that they hunted and killed other animals for their food. Okay, all of these animals that we've got here, all of these lions, these polar bears, these huge birds of prey, these crocodiles, all of these are predators. What type of animal were they? If you can think of it, remember that word, great. Shout out, shout it out. I can hear. Well done, you all said carnivores, well done. So all animals which eat meat and solely meat are called carnivores, and they're all predators. Okay, now the other type of animal that we're looking at today that do not eat meat have a different, that we looked at last time, are a different type of animal. So not carnivores. Can you remember? Can you put your thinking caps on and remember what this type of animal which eats, which are often eaten by predators? They eat fruits, vegetables, seeds, and other plants. What are these animals called which eat all these different bits and bobs but not meat? Thinking caps on, shout it out in 5, in 4, in 3, in 2, in 1, and I think you all said it. Well done. It was herbivores, and Mr. Springs messed up pressing that button there. So there we are, herbivores. So well done, guys. You should have got that all of those were herbivores. So the first set of animals that we looked at were those carnivores that eat meat, and then we looked at a type of animal which eats vegetables and fruit, which are herbivores. Now, the reason my little friend here has come to join us is to do with the project that you're going to be doing today. Now, this is my little pal who's just joined our family very recently. He's a pet. He's not somebody who has to go and find his own food. He lives in our house with us. Okay. Now, my little pal is a pet, and I wondered if any of you or anybody else you know has got a pet. Now, even if you haven't, and we didn't until about 4 weeks ago, even if you haven't got a pet, you can still do today's task, because you're going to have to get in touch with some people. And whilst that's a bit tricky in terms of speaking to them in person at the moment, hopefully you, with mum or dad, or whoever you're with at home, can contact a few people and ask them a question, okay? And what you've got to ask them is what your pet eats. And we're going to represent this data in a specific way. So what I'm going to do today is show you how somebody would conduct this investigation for a kitten, like this guy here. And then you're going to try and do it yourselves, and I'll show you how that's going to work. And you've got a worksheet to complete. And it'd be great if I can see some super scientists ready to investigate, because I don't know what to feed this thing. I just keep giving them pencils. Is that right? Okay, so if we have a look. Right, now, so the first question we've got, if we had this question, do all cats eat the same food? Now, before we had this guy, we had another, or our family had another cat, and he got very old, and he just ate the food out the packs. But this guy eats chicken. So it feels like they didn't eat the same, but that's just two cats, and I'm not sure that's a great example. So I need to figure out how I can be a bit more of a structured scientist. I'm going to think about what information I need and how I would go around gathering it. So here we go. Here's some information. If I look at my four rows on the left-hand side, I can see tinned cat food, dry cat food, fish, and other meals. Okay, and what that's called is a tally chart. And I've got a frequency table there, the tally chart, where I've looked at how many times different cat owners have told me that their cats eat these different things. Now, you guys, because you're superstar mathematicians from year 3, you know that when we have 4 vertical lines, we put a horizontal line across them to indicate 5 when we're doing tallying. So I can see that there's 5, add 2 more for the tinned food. Then for the dry food, there's 4. For the fish, there's 1. I hadn't thought of fish. You might get our fish in a second, mate. And for other meats, there's 3. So I can see that. Now, the second representation, this same data, so the same information, is presented in a pictogram. And rather aptly, so rather smartly, we chose to do a pictogram where the picture was a cat. But one cat isn't worth one. One cat is worth two. And I can see that because the box at the bottom tells me that. And it's the box at the bottom, which is called a key. Excuse me, my friend, just come down here. Okay, so our 15 cat owners, the 7 tinned cat food cat owners, they didn't eat it themselves, the cats did, but the 7 tinned cat food owners were shown as 3 whole, so that's 2 plus 2 plus 2 owners, so 2 plus 2 plus 2 is 6, plus half a cat. Don't worry, mate, we're not going to chop you in half. So plus half a cat, which is another owner. So in total, that's 7 cat foods. So that's 7 cat owners. Now the dry cats, and that is cat 2 plus 2, so that's 4 cats owners. The fish was just half a cat, and that means it's 1. Okay, and then we've got the other meats as 2 plus 1, which makes 3. So the pictogram shows us that. Now, what you're going to try and do is, well, first things first, what you're going to think about is what these results show you. Okay, so before you do your own data capture, what can we interpret from this information? So, first question I'm going to ask you is, which food is the most popular amongst these 15 cat owners for their cats? Oh, great. All of you saying it's the tinned cat food. You can see that, can't you? Because it's the highest column on our pictogram, and it's the one that's got the most pictures. Now, with it, we have to do a pictogram. The picture's the same size. Because if I'd got 3.5 really small cats, but they were worth more than 2 really big cats, it would confuse me on my pictogram. So it's really important that my pictogram has the pictures the same size each time I represent them. Now, I can see that one food is the least popular amongst these cat owners. What's that you say? It's the fish. I can see that. It's just half of that cat. It's true. It's interesting, isn't it? Because it tells me what they eat. It doesn't necessarily tell me what they like the most. Because I know, and this is me being a bit of a fussy Mr. Spring, I don't really like the smell of fish. So even if this guy wanted fish, he probably wouldn't get it very much. So it tells me some things, but it doesn't tell me anything. I think, though, it's really accurate based on the information I've asked the cat owners. So I think it's a good piece of information for that. Now, what I want you to do is think about your own investigation. If you think about the one we've just looked at, the question was, I'll just go back a second. The question was, do all cats eat the same food? Now, I want you to have a think about what question you could ask. It might be about cats if you know lots of people with cats. It might be about dogs, but it needs to be about pets and what they eat. Okay, so I'd like you to think about a question you're going to ask. Now, don't worry if you don't know anybody with any kittens or cats or dogs that you can talk to. Until this guy came along, I didn't know anybody with kittens or cats. I didn't really speak to anybody about their animals. If you can just think of a question, you can kind of invent some people to tell you the answers. We can do, because of the situation at the moment where school's locked down, we can kind of talk to our imaginary friends about their imaginary pets. Have a think about what question you might do. It might be, do all dogs eat the same? Do all dogs eat the same number of meals? Do all fish eat the same amount of food? Do all cats eat at the same time? Think about what question you're going to ask. Have a think. Maybe talk to people at home about what question they'd like to ask about pets and their food. Could it be about how much they eat? Could it be about how frequently or at what time? Could it be about what type of food they eat? After you've done that, have a look at your worksheet. Now, on your worksheet, you'll see that the first thing you need to think about is the type of food. So if you've decided to do one on the type of food, this table can work for you. If you've chosen to do one about timing or about amount of food, you might need to change the worksheet a little bit. And that's fine. If you either cross it out or you copy it out and tweak it a little bit, that's fine. Now, whichever type of food you've got, you're going to fill in this first section. And then you're going to do that tally. And remember, for the tallying, 4 vertical lines with 1 horizontal line is the same as 5. Okay, it shows 5. In the original investigation, somebody asked 15 people. And that'd be great if you can get that many, even if you have to invent some of them. If you get too small a value, it's not very useful because we can't understand much from it. So see if you can find a few people to ask, get mum and dad and anybody else who's at home to ask. And if your brothers or sisters have phones and they're older and they can phone a few people, maybe they can phone a few people for you. You can get them to help you with it. So repeat the tally, and after the tally, in the third column, where the frequency, you write it as a number. So the tally you write with those vertical and horizontal lines, and then in the frequency value, you write the number. Then you're going to draw your pictogram. Now, the one about cats had pictures of cats, and remember their faces were all the same size, so it was easy to understand. If you're doing fish and how much they eat, try and draw a fish, but it needs to be the same size each time. Dogs. If anybody's got any pet tigers, don't do the pictogram, just call the police, because we shouldn't have pet tigers. Okay, but if anybody has, in all seriousness, got some interest in pets, maybe that the interesting pet could be the image, but probably not tigers. We don't want tigers. Okay, so once you go through, remind you here how they drew the pictogram, so you can see the idea that they had a cat's face. Each cat was indicative of 2 cats. Okay, so you might do a similar key. It might be you're really confident with your 5 times table, and you know loads of people with fish. So one fish could be worth 5 or 4. Or you can think about what your key would be. But you'll need to tell whoever's looking at your worksheet what the key is. And then complete yours. And I look forward to seeing them with your pictograms completed in this final section. I'm just trying to move it along, guys. Okay, guys, thank you very much for listening to me. I'm glad you got introduced to my kitten as well. I'm really excited to see the type of research you can do. Now, what you must not do is worry about this. This is a bit of interesting fun, where you're being a researcher and you're finding out what type of things different animals that live at home, that are pets, eat. If you can find people to ask, great. If you can't, make some people up. If you put a table together and then represent it as a pictogram, you're still doing the skill, even if you're not able to do the research. But if you are able to do the research, great as well. I look forward to seeing those sent in next week. Thank you very much for listening, Year 3. Have a great weekend.